This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so I hope everyone is online. So can you guys hear me properly?
Yeah,
Hello?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, right. Uh, so all right. So let's just review that scheduler. Okay, so I think which was a bit confusing topic. So Yarn, it's the main part is like managing the application or job, and the core one of the core component is scheduler. Okay, so the scheduler is a pluggable module. So that means so this is handled by one jar file, and in that a couple of jar files will be there in the backend, and based on the class you define for one of the parameter, you can change the behavior of scheduler. So there are FIFO option available, capacity option available, and fair share scheduling option available. So these are the three schedulers available for Yarn. So you can change from one scheduler to other based on your requirement. And basically, there are some default behavior for scheduler in one in each distribution. So if you go ahead with the core Apache distribution, so yes, the FIFO is the default scheduler that Yarn is making use of. And if you go ahead with the HTTP, Hortonworks data platform, so which is the Hortonworks distribution, and that is making use of the version, the scheduler, capacity scheduler. And for Cloudera distribution, the default scheduler is fair-share, and each scheduler behave its own way. Okay, so FIFO, the simple queuing mechanism, like first in, first out. So those who enter in the first in that application queue, so he will get all the resources, whatever the resources he need. If the remaining resources are there, then only will be available for the next jobs or next applications. So if not resources available, then the next job or whatever the job submitted after has to wait. So that is about the FIFO. Like we are entering a ball through a pipe. So the first one will exit first, like that. So the FIFO, the problem is like if you schedule a FIFO scheduler in a production or something, the problem is if one person submit a very long running or which require a lot of resources. See, his job will be in this application queue for long time, and maybe some other people has to complete their job, so that will be in the waiting state for long time. So that means he has to wait the completion of longer job, even if job is shorter. So that is a problem with FIFO scheduler, but this is just like a experimental way or trial run. We can make use of this. That is a default behavior. Then capacity scheduler. So capacity scheduler is the default in Hortonworks, and the main characteristics here we have the concept of queues. Okay, So each queue we will define the queues. So this is queue definition is based on CPU or memory or both. Mostly we use design based on the memory and CPU. So we will define that into different queues. Okay, and each queue we will associate a certain percentage of allocation, like 30, 30, then 40, like that. So total altogether should be 100. And again, we can have sub queues under this. And here also we can have sub queues, but it's all depends whatever the based on the requirement. So the parent of the queue is the root, then root dot production, root dot engineering, root dot marketing, like that we can have. So at any level, so if you just add all this percentage together, that should be 100. So this is the capacity, and there is an option like maximum capacity. So that define if no jobs are running on the other queue, how much percentage of resources this queue can use. So these are a couple of parameters that can make use of for better utilization of cluster. The thing is, like, if no jobs are running on the other queues, like, so 30 40, I mean the 70 percentage are free, only 30. So this queue is having lot of jobs to do, then what happened? So there are 70 percentage of resources free. The thing is, like, these two queues are not in use. So we have an option like maximum capacity. So that means if no jobs are running on the other queues, then it can use some portion of the resources. And within the queue, okay, so like here we have got three queues, right? So not only three, just a sample number. So within the queue, if multiple jobs are submitted, how these jobs work? Say for example J1, then J2 will submit it, then J3. So these three jobs are in queue. Then how this queuing or scheduling will work from each queue? So by default, in capacity scheduler at the queue level, the FIFO scheduler was the default. That means if somebody submit, say for example, this is like 10. So if job one is need all the 10 resources, then J2 will be in the pending state, and J3 also will be in the pending state. So the reason is within the capacity scheduler, so we have the queues. So queue makes sure like certain portion of the resources are reserved for these queues. And the within that queue, so the how this scheduling work, that is based on a FIFO scheduler, that is the default behavior. However, the latest version support fair share scheduling also. Okay, that is about the capacity scheduler. And the next scheduler is fair share. Okay, so this is the default scheduler in Cloudera. So how this scheduler work is like, say for example, we have 100 slots available. Say my J1, so this require actually hundreds of slots. So initially J1 submit and he will get all the slots, or maybe I can say 10 containers it can run. The later J2 also submit. At that time J1 is in running state. So what it will do, instead of making use of entire 10 slots, it will use the 5, and the remaining 5 it will give to next job. That is something like it will do this sharing mode. So within that queue, or again within the fair share also, we have the concept of uh, a queue, and we will call it as a different name here in the capacity scheduler, sorry, in the fair share scheduler. Okay, so you can go to the resource pool, we call it as pool. Okay, so dynamic resourceful is also option. So the we call, instead of this one queue here in the fair share scheduler, we call it as pool. So pool is also the same as the queue, and which can have the certain percentage of weightage of resources allocated to it. And how this work within the pool is it work in a fair share manner. Fair share is something like if one is running, he will equally distribute that resources to the other jobs which is submitted to that pool. Okay, so this is how the fair share works. So you may be thinking, okay, if capacity scheduler support a fair share option within the queue, then what is the difference between the fair share and capacity? Then technically no difference, both will work in the same way. That the reason is like there we have a within the queue we have the defined queue. Within that queue, if fair share is working, here we have direct fair share, and we are having different. We are just defining the queues. Okay, so in that way, both will work in the same way. So this is the fair share, and fair share we call this I mean the reservation as pool. So we can have the allocation based on the memory or CPU and memory. So by considering the CPU and memory, we call dominant resource fairness DRF. DRF is nothing but we are just allocating based on the CPU and memory. So and we have seen little bit lab on how to set up this queue in a fair share. Also we have the concept of pools that you can define the pool from here. Go to the cluster dynamic resource pool. So the dynamic resource pool will list what are the queues or pools defined. Okay, and what is the percentage of resources it's allocated. So we can create the pool. Pool is nothing but the similar to your queue in capacity scheduler. So we can have the weightage. So based on that weightage, you will get some percentage of allocation. And uh, we can define the queues under root and also sub queues also. So we have seen like how the sub queues can be created. Just go to the dynamic resource pool configuration part. Go to the resource pool and go to the queue where you want to create the sub queue. So if you want to create the sub queues at production, just come here, then create sub pool. So we can just write some name and what is the weightage within that. So here it's showing 20. That means it will get whatever the percentage allocated to the production only. And if I am just again adding one more, then uh, I won't get 20. So I'll get some lesser number, maybe 10 or something. So yeah, 10. So this 20 is divided into 2. So this is a parent and this is a child queue. And we have seen like how to create, and while running time itself we can change or edit the queue that will affect the running job. Okay, so that means if you have two jobs running on the production and marketing queues or marketing pool, so initially the production is having weightage 120% and marketing having 40%. So if you increase this and decrease this or whatever the changes you make, so that will apply at the runtime. Only thing is we have an option to refresh dynamic resource pool without restarting the yarn service, so that the jobs won't be get affected. So it will run as it is. Only the difference is like so these changes will take slowly some time. So there you can change the running jobs behavior. So based on that the usage will change. So here the resource pool is nothing but similar to the capacity scheduler queue. Only the difference is like here the naming convention is slightly different. Okay, so the naming is slightly different. We call it as pool, and we can have the weightage, and we can have the minimum and maximum reservation and what type of scheduling we need. So normally we use dominant resource fairness. So we can have the normal FIFO. That means within the queue how this behave. So you may be thinking like, so the with uh, dynamic resource pool we are just changing the behavior of uh, a fair share scheduler to similar to the capacity or FIFO. That is correct. But normally people go ahead with the DRF, dominant resource fairness. And we can have the access control also. So the access control will restrict. Okay, so how who can submit or who cannot submit. So we can have like, so allow these users and groups to submit this pool. So if you specify this group name or username here, so it let only the people on that list or the people who belongs to that group to submit jobs to this queue. Okay, so that again, then the scheduling rule, I have explained, like, so we can define have different rules. Basically, the one is the default. The second is for weekend, we can have a separate rule created, or other off business hours, we can have different rule created. So that's about the place scheduling rule. So if you have scheduling rules available, so you can, for each rule, we can have the resource pool and its percentage created separately. So if I create a new scheduling for, okay, say for example, create new, then I'm just writing its ABC, clone from default, then uh, one which days I want, but there is an option like daily, so that will do. So if I just created one more, so that is like ABC. So now if you go to the resource pool, you will have the option, three option. For ABC also, you can have various, see, for ABC, I don't need this child queues. So I can just remove that, and only the parent queues I need. That I'm doing only for ABC, okay? So that won't affect for other queues or other placement, other scheduling rules. I can save it and refresh my dynamic resource pool. So in that case, if you just go to the, oops, I think, oh, so deletion cost from every queue. Okay, only the percentage variation we can do. So I think if I just create XYZ and create XYZ, and that is available on default, we can, yeah, only thing is we can change the weightage, okay, for scheduling rule. We have three scheduling rule on weekend on default queue. So I just need this XYZ maximum value. What I can do is resource limit weightage. I can just put 10, save it. So 66 percentage is for XYZ. But if I just change to weekend, then that is 1. And if I change to ABC, that is different. So this way you can change the percentage for each queue if you have the scheduling rule. Again, within the scheduling rule, how it detect the scheduling rule is based on the I mean the time or day of the week. Okay, so we have normally a weekend schedule or weekday off hours, something like that. And also this is the order in which it will check. The first it will check this one, and this is the one, and third this. So this order also we can just reschedule. So move up, move down, like that you can do. Okay. So that's about the scheduling rule. We can create the scheduling rule, and based on the scheduling rule, you can change the weightage.
Sajesh, this Prasad here.
Yeah.
In day-to-day operations, I mean, how the business will approach us for changing the queues and resource limits. Like, I mean, I mean, on what scenarios we need to do this in real time?
No. In day to day, we need not to change these queues and all. So this is mostly the one time or first time configuration. after that. And how we need is like I explained in the last week, right? So we may have the weekday or weekend different priorities for different people, or Indian business hours or US business hours. Also, we have priorities for different team, and also they are all part of the different queue or different group they are doing. So that way we will do this scheduling rules.
Okay, what type of errors we occur whenever the queue is not enough resources? Like what type of issues we face in the day to day? Like see, initially the queues are configured, right? And while on the fly,
No, no.
the
See, initially, all these things do at the beginning. So it's very rare, like people do change it in between. Even if you change it, then okay. See, what will happen that you can just think and understand, right? So, if, like, say, for example, I have this uh, four queues, or say, for example, I have a two scheduling rules A, B, C, or weekday or weekend. What
okay,
I'm just changing is for production priority, I'm just changing very low to weekend schedule. And I mean, the marketing has increased, but in the default day, the production is this one. So what will happen? Like if you just understand this, like okay, the people submit the production and marketing job on the weekday, and the same people submit on the weekend, there will be the difference, because on weekend they are having different priority, and weekday they are having different priority.
okay. In
I
case
mean,
if
they won't get the resources that time.
in case if we change the weight here for the production one to five, the number of resources allocation will be increased or the priority of the queue will be increased.
See, another thing is, like, I think the people who worked on the production environment, if you want to go for any changes, it has to go through the change management approvals and all. So there will be some lead time and all. Once they approve, then you can make changes. Like in a lab kind of environment, you are allowed to make these changes. Other than that, like any changes in the production, so it will has to go through the change management approval and process. So what will happen? Like, see, okay, I am giving you the reservation of 60 percentage. On weekend, I am giving 40 percentage only. Then how it will affect your job? You can understand, right? So if you submit the job on the weekday, it will run, or you will get that much resources. On weekend, you won't get that much resources. That will be the difference for an end people. I mean, the people who submit. Is it clear?
Yeah, I'm asking about the weights. I mean, if we change the weight, the priority of the queue will be changed or the
No,
number.
no, the weight means it's not the priority means you can see the percentage here, right?
Yeah, resource
See,
percentage.
just to apply some mathematics here. See, we have 100% of resources. Out of that, see this priority. Don't look at the numbers. Okay, just 66 percentage means if you have 100 slots or 100 cores and 100 memory, so this queue will get that much percentage. So this he will get that much percentage, like that.
Okay, I got it. I got it. The weight is going to allocate the resource, right? I mean, number of cores, number of this thing, right?
Correct, correct.
Okay, okay, got it.
See, our main intention is like the CPU can restrict the CPU and memory usage for each queue. Okay. Say for example, maybe this mathematic is confusing. But still you need to apply some mathematic here. Uh, it's like if you're just confusing the number, just don't look that. But the next part is the percentage. See, if you some, I mean, add all these values together, the total will be 100. So the 100 means that is all your, like say for example, if you have 100 resources or if you have 200 resources, the 100 percentage means all these together. So out of that, this queue will get that much percentage of CPU and memory. That means he can make use of this much percentage of total capacity. So more than that, if any people submit to this queue, they will be in the accepted or waiting state. So like that. So the capacity, or this is the priority number, means how much percentage of resources that these queues are getting. Like in capacity scheduler, we are just defining the capacity. Here we can just make use of this number. So number I just explained, right? So if you just use a 4 like that, means that looks like a 100%. Like let me remove this one also. So now you can see 25, 25, 25. So that means in this case, this scenario, uh, say for example, if I have 100 resources, I mean it will be 100 slots people call, so 100 gig RAM and 100 cores of CPU. So 25 cores and 25 gig will be allocated to this. The 25 will be for this, 25 will be for this, and 25 will be marketing. So if one person, like there may be, so for example, there are two jobs submitted to the marketing which require a lot of cores. Okay, the problem is here the allocation is only 25%. So the remaining jobs will be in the waiting state. So that will happen for the production also if the usage happened, right? So this percentage allocation means out of total CPU and memory, how much we are allocating to this queue. And the placement rule we have already explained, like how a job is, if a job is submitted, on which queue this job is placed. So we have a different option and we can create that. Maybe by default it has to create the queue, or I mean the pool and queue are the same concept here. So yeah, like use the pool specified at the runtime. So this is having the highest priority. If any person while submitting the job, if he specified the queue name, then use that. Otherwise, other than that, if no queue specified, then create a queue like this, root user, whatever the username. So this thing you can add or remove placement. Then the user limit is something like for which user or any user, what is the maximum job he can run and all. And also we can have the restriction, like so which group is allowed or which user is allowed. So that we have seen, like say for example for the marketing, I can restrict like admission submission control, like I can write here marketing. So that means, so if you just use the allow anyone to submit, that means anyone can submit. Allow specified means the marketing. Then we have the submission. I think we can have the comma separated. Suppose the users who have comma separated value like A, B, C, or people who belongs to this group only able to submit the jobs to this one. So that way we can restrict the pool. Okay, so here we have a total 36. So out of 36, 36 means 36, then half is 18. So 9, 9, 9. Right? So each queue will get 9 9 vCore and 9 gig RAM. So that means 9 containers can run. So that is the percentage. So if you just change the percentage on weekend, this is something like, so this won't get 9. So 11 percentage of 36, how much? So that much resource only this will get. So 66 the marketing will get. Okay, so that is about the dynamic resource pool. And if you just change that, definitely I think I have shown that changing at the runtime also the behavior, like how much CPU and memory is using, and that CPU memory and usage has changed for the job. Okay, so last class we have just submitted two jobs, maybe for two different home page and go to yarn. Then if you go to the sorry, not application, where is that, resource pool. Okay, here you have like uh, pool allocation and all, you can see how much each container or each pool is using, and that sudden change also you would be able to see from here. Okay, so per pool allocation and all you could be able to see. Like if you just submit, okay, what you have to do is submit two jobs, one on marketing and one on production. So initially, maybe if your marketing and production, okay, as given 50-50, then what you can do here is like, let me just to show you that again if you just didn't understand that. So delete. Uh, okay, what I will do is,
Dinesh, if we change that weight to 2, it will come. Okay, got it.
no, the reason is that you may have not tried this. Okay, so if you just change that, then you will see that difference quickly. So you can request you to install this and make these changes. Okay, this weightage. Then you will be able to see how what is it. I mean, a relation between this weightage and the percentage. See 111 if you put, then it will be 33. So 222 means also the same as 111. So in that case also like 33. See if I just use a 1, then that will change. So 40 percentage of 36 means into zero point 0.4, like that. See, if I just use this as 3, then this will increase for this 2, or you can just have increase to 5 also. Okay, so okay, so this 36, what I need is this 36, I need to have like 10 10 or okay, I need a 15 for this, a 15 for this. What you can do is you can just use a 15 also. 15, uh, 15. Then you can have add 6 here. Sorry, not here. Here you can just add the 6. In that time, you will get so 16.7 percentage means it will be 6 only, and it will be 7 only. So you can just submit the jobs to this production and marketing, and if you just keep changing this value while the running time also, you can change this so that your core allocation will change at the runtime. So that is the reason you can use dynamic resource pool. This is easy. Like you need to have it enterprise or enterprise trial, and you can just use this feature for creating. And while submitting the job, what you can do is just use the username. I mean, you can just type which queue you want to submit. So that also you can do. Okay. Sorry. So I have the okay. See, this is the option I use, so that my job will go to -d option you can use, then it will go to the production queue, and you can see that from here also. Go to the yarn sorry, a resource pool, and you can see the which queue it's running. and its usage you should be able to see. It's okay, just started maybe. Okay, it should show here. Maybe it will take some time to update these changes. Okay.
Can we see in the after the job execution? Can we see how many about this queue information in the job output, job execution output?
Here, right? Yeah, it should display here.
Not yet in the Linux screen. After
Yeah,
execution
Linux.
on job, how many
Yeah,
resources allocated? Like the
that you have that.
fact,
Yeah, that for that you have to use the yarn command. Okay, or else you can go to this resource manager UI. There is an option like the web UI. The same thing you can get from yarn application command. Okay, so let me just get this. I think this one you have already have seen, like how many resources it's using. If it's a running state, you can just come here and go to the application master. Maybe here you can see this is running, and how many are completed, how many map tasks are total it require, and how many are pending. Those information also we can get from here. So this is a 100 mappers. So 14 are in pending, 27 is running, and 59 completed. So if you see here, I think somewhere 81. Like so this one you will get this information from here and from the resource manager. What you have to do is just to go to the resource manager UI 8088, and you can just see that job detail. So the resource manager, you will get that resource manager uh, link from here. Maybe if this is point not redirecting to the proper IP.
8088.
Yeah, 8088. You can just hit the link, that will automatically open with that proper link.
Okay, okay.
And you can just hit that application ID, and if it's completed, then it go to the completed one. And only thing is, like here we don't have that IP DNS.
Oh, I got it. I got it. I got it.
Yeah.
19888.
And yeah, and that completed job you can get from the
Job server.
yarn application also. Okay, yarn the same way there are commands like yarn commands available. Sorry, read the job ID.
Yeah, list job, something like.
Yes, yarn as yarn application. And application, if you just see, there is an option like
hyphen list.
hyphen list, and you can have the application ID also. Now, by default, it's showing all the running one at how much percentage is completed. Those information you can get. And application ID. Okay, I think APP ID or something. Option is okay. So that, sorry, that is for logs. Okay. Then yarn. Then yarn logs. Then you can have this application ID. So this way also you will get the complete yarn log for an application. So maybe we will just go to the one of the completed job and see. Test user 01 logs. Okay, this is saying this file doesn't exist. Okay, so we will see that. But you can just use the yarn command to view the same thing, whatever the resource manager provides. Okay. Just go through this one, dynamic resource pool. It's easy. You can configure, and while running the job, only thing you need to use is -d, then this queue name. Okay, so you only thing is you have to use the queue name so that it will go to the appropriate queue, and you can just go through this and try around the different option in dynamic resource pool. Okay. Next, we will see how we can. It's currently running outdated configuration. Okay, fine. How we can add multiple Hue servers, and how to add load balancer. Okay, so Hue, like as we have seen, we can have it and use it for just like where your Hue server is running. So this is the master one. What is the IP? And the port is 8888. Okay, and we should be able to log in. Okay, I don't know why this is taking this much time. Yeah, fine. But the thing is, like, the problem is availability case. So we are concerned about the availability when we are thinking in the production perspective. And if the service goes down, Like I have a queue server. If in any case, if it goes down or if I need a maintenance on the server, then the entire queue service won't be working. So in that way, we can have an option like we can have additional queue server services. And what you can do is just add a role instance. Okay. Then I'm just going to add queue server to one more, or we can have multiple, 2 or 3 or whatever it may be. Okay. So I can have one or two or two or three or four queue servers. Okay. And the next is the load balancer. Okay. So the load balancer is the service we can install on one or two or multiple load balancers also. So I'll tell you how this work. And Hue server has an Hue server role on master 2 must be okay. Okay, so this is saying like service has a server role on the master 2. There must be ticket. Okay, so that we will add Kerberos ticket renewer to that host, and worker 1 also. Okay. Okay, then we have worker 1. Wherever we have a Hue server installed on that host, we need a Kerberos ticket renewer. So the Kerberos ticket renewer is the service that will be using only for Kerberos enabled services. So what I did is I just added the two more Hue server, so that if one goes down, I have still two more Hue server available. So let me uh, start these services, and maybe I need to restart the failed or stale configuration is detected. So let me restart the services and hit this redeploy and restart. How this Hue work is, we have a Hue server. Okay, maybe I'm just saying 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so we have 3 Hue servers, and we can have a load balancer service. Okay, so what it will do, if you just using a double eight, and this is using IP address and double eight, and or this machine IP address and double eight, or this machine IP address and double eight, and all this may be using the same metadata information, and but backend database availability we need to take care. But if in case if this is down, this we have two more. Why we need load balancer is, so for a developer, okay, so it's very difficult to remember all these 3 IP addresses. Also, if one goes down, then he has to manually switch to other and like that. So for that purpose, we will have a load balancer. So this load balancer, we can use either a third party, like a physical or any reliable load balancers, or we can have the load balancer that Cloudera provides along with the Hue. Okay, so once this is done, if I just go to Hue and go to the instances, I have got a worker 1, master 2, and master 1. So we'll just master 1 we have already opened. Just use this IP address and use double eight. that will also work. And worker 1, we can use that IP address, and double eight, right? So all this, maybe you may be thinking like why this is 3, but even though this is 3, in the backend database and all are the same. We have not done any extra DB configuration for newly added Hue services. And the load balancer is something like we are using on the master one. So by default it's using double eight. So the load balancer is on the master one. So what is the master one IP? I think it's using 8889. Let me, yes. So this load balancer 8889. So here, if you just look here, see, this is using 8889, and this is load balancer has some IP address. So in our case, where this load balancer is installed, see, the person is connecting using this, and it may be routing to any one of the Hue. So this way, it will do a load balancing, or if any one of the Hue service goes down, still we have availability. Okay. See, this is available. This is working, right? So I think the local one is using 88, and if load balancer is available, we won't give that individual Hue detail to them. So we will just give load balancer IP address and port. So suppose I'm just removing or just stopping one of the Hue server on the master. Just let me stop that. And if I just use this information and use that, I should be able to get it, right? This is working. Also admin, I think what is the password? Yeah, my ID, this is working. So even though I have one stopped Hue service, say for example, let me stop the master 2 also. Okay, so if master 2 also down, I'll log out and see. Now we will just confirm whether master 2 is down. Yes, I have only one Hue server. Just use, yeah. Now this time the request is served by this Hue service running on. Like this is just a typical load balancer configuration. Like so we have multiple services in backend, and load balancer is pointing to any one of them based on the availability, or if all of them are available, it will do a load balancing also. Like it will pass the request in a round robin, like our website, Google and all, how this work, like based on the IP request. So it will route it to different servers, but this is using a different port number. But any request comes to this IP and this port number, that will be routed. The next question is, like, you may be thinking like so what if that load balancer itself is down? So we can have the multiple or additional load balancer also added. Okay. But very rare, like load balancer will be going down, and mostly the people use the physical load balancer. Like maybe very reliable and networking side, there will be a third party vendor, or you can have multiple load balancer also. You can have additional, like so one more load balancer you can have it. Okay. So in that time you can use that also, but in most of the production environment, they will have a separate networking team, and they will take care of this load balancer, like normal, how the normal load balancer works. So the feature is like we can have the multiple Hue server, and we can configure a load balancer, but as a pluggable module, so it has its own one more. Uh, I mean, by default, it provides a load balancer. So you can have a additional load balancer also, or physical. Okay, so that's about the Hue load balancer. Just give me 5 minutes time. Okay, so next we will see what is the rack awareness and how to implement rack awareness. Okay, so rack awareness is a feature which is available in Hadoop. So it's a like Apache Hadoop feature, and the basically the thing is like you can define or you can tell Hadoop cluster like about the rack, and Hadoop will do an intelligent decision based on this data. Uh, before thinking, I mean, discussing the rack awareness, you may be, I think some of you already know what is a rack, and some you may not be knowing. So if you just open the Google and see like rack, okay, server rack, or you can just say server rack. So you can see something like this. So normally in a data center, how they place the server is in a different rack, and each will have its own power supply and its own networking device, and all it's all connected together with a proper networking and all. So if you just enter into a data center, mostly it looks like this way. So bottom also you have some airflow, then you have a proper ventilation and air conditioning and a lot of things. Okay, so because even if the temperature is also very important, so there will be a lot of things in a data center, but mostly the people don't go inside the data center, but very rarely for maintenance and all they will enter. So this one unit is called a rack, and again there is a standard unit, and like we call like every 1 inch or something like the server. Okay, so the one which is showing like this can be a server. So we have blade servers and all available. So basically what I'm saying is the rack awareness is something like, so we just tell the system or Hadoop on which rack our data node is located. Mainly we will do the rack awareness for data nodes. Okay. As part of availability also, while taking that name node availability, we will just take one name node from one rack and another name node from another rack. The reason is the power supply, the network, and other are different for maybe the finally they all join together if it's network, and even if it's power also they will have it. But the thing is like at the rack level there may be a failure chance. Okay, sometimes one rack itself not working. So in that case, so if you have your name node, one name node on one rack, another name node on another rack, so that will give you much for better availability. The next is like so what is rack awareness is like we will just tell okay on which rack our data nodes are there. Okay, so what you have to do is you just need to have a file that contain the server or data node IP or host name, and will tell on which rack it's located. So Hadoop while placing the data, that is for HDFS, while placing the data, so it will try to keep the data block on different rack. Say for example, if I have a file 1, so which is having the block BLK1 and BLK2, then what it will do, the BLK1, one copy it will store here, and BLK1, another copy store it into another rack, because this ensures even if in the case of rack outage, so we will have the data available on the next rack. Okay, and that is for HDFS. So also like so the reason is like keep it on the different location or different rack. Suppose if entire rack goes down, still we have the data available on that. So for Hadoop, we are not doing any intelligent algorithm or anything here. So what we are just doing is we are passing a file that contain the IP address or host name and the rack name. So first, before going that, so just we will see how initially this rack looks like, or what is the rack allocated. So if you go to the Cloudera manager, and there is a column called a rack. If you don't have that column, you can select that rack column. That will list the rack name. So here, this is all listing like default, default, default. So like I said, you need not to set a rack for the master or where your management host. It mainly for worker also. And the rack awareness, one advantage is like HDFS block, while HDFS block placement, and while running the yarn job also, if you have your blocks on different uh, rack, or that will also will run one job, map or reduce job here, and another map or reduce job on the other rack. So only thing is, from our side, what you have to do is, as an admin, just set the rack. Okay, setting of the rack is very easy. So but before that, we will go to the root and go to the directories var run Cloudera scm agent, then process, and if you just ls-lrt and go to the name nodes directory, what you can do is just grep -i name node, and you can see this hdfs name node directory. Okay, go inside that directory, and you can see one file topology.map, and another file, uh, there will be one more file topology.py, the one python script and one data file. So topology.map is just a text or xml file. You can just view the content here. Okay, so master one default, that is its ip and default, and worker one default. So this is the host name versus rack name. So like I said, there is a script. Okay, so if you just use this script, how the cluster is using is top use this python script, and then it use that host name or host ip address that will list the rack name for this one. So if I want to just set get the rack for this ip address, so that is the default. So what uh, Hadoop is using is using this Python script and find out the rack name. So if you go to the directory, you can see those files like topology.map and topology.py. Topology.map is just a data file that contain the server versus rack details. That is just an XML file, and this is the Python file that Hadoop is making use of. And the setting is very easy. Like first you will have to check with your data center team and get the list, like okay, which servers are on which rack and which servers are on other rack. Okay, so just like get the list, like the rack versus server detail, and what you have to do is next you can just set that name. Say for example, I have worker 1 on worker 2 or on one rack. I can just say slash, and any name you can just use the rack 01, but always better use something like in the data center how they named, because that will be easy for you to identify. Say for example, the server, okay, you see that one server, okay, you can see that server on this rack is having issue, but this name and the actual rack name doesn't have any no need to have any relation. So this is just a name that we are giving. So the rack 1 means, so it will identify who all are belongs to rack 1. That means, so while placing the block, okay, if it's placing one block to here worker 1, worker 2, then it will avoid placing the block on the worker 3. The reason is worker 2 and worker 3 are on the same rack. So let me set the rack different rack name. So if I'm placing the rack, one block will be here, one block will be here. So the next block it will check if there any other machines on different rack available other than these two racks, will place there. So this is how it works. So I
Dinesh,
just, yeah,
the data center team will provide the rack-wise server names. or we are
Yeah.
logically grouping as a rack wise in the Hadoop side? What is the concept like? Just I missed out
See,
because I got a call from my
see the
office.
concept I explained, right? How why we are keeping it
Yeah,
in the different rack. Yeah, that is the
okay.
reason.
But you are
Yeah.
configuring the Hadoop Cloudera, right? And Cloudera, you are assigning the rack to a particular server. But
No,
I mean,
no. Uh, this name and all, only the thing is like Hadoop cluster has to say, okay, on which rack this machine belongs to. So, and based on that, it will place the block.
okay, based on the physical location of the particular server in the rack, we are
No,
grouping in the side. Am I right?
the concept is simple. Okay. See, the thing is, while placing the block, so it has to place the block on machines are on the different racks. Then the advantage, what advantage we will get is even if one rack goes down, still we have the data availability.
But we need to get the server information from the rack side. Each and every rack, what are the servers are there? I mean, that physical
Then,
information.
then only we can say worker
Okay,
one and worker two are on the same rack, right? Otherwise, there is no point of setting this. The
okay,
setting, the reason is just like we are just logically grouping this so that the machines which are on the same rack will be just giving the same rack name, and machine which are on the different rack, I'm just giving the different rack name.
got it, got it. Thank
So HDFS, while placing the block, HDFS will say, okay, so this machine already one more machine is there. Then it will try to place block on other machines on the other rack. The actual logic is implemented on the Hadoop side. So and it's making use of that data file and a Python script to find out the rack. And if both are on the same rack, it will try avoid placing that. In the worst case, it will keep it there. Because in our case, we have all the machines which are on the same rack. There is no point of setting the rack. Even if you set the rack and you should give the same name, then the reason is we don't have a different rack. And while setting the rack is easy, just select the machine name and go to the set rack. You can just use that. So this information actually where these machines are located, you will get from the data center team. Then if you set that from our side, like as an administrator, talk to the data center and identify how many racks we are using. Are we using different racks, or this is all we have to do? I mean the collect and get the detail before starting the installation itself. The reason is if you have the name node thing, so better place the name node, one of the name node in one rack and another name node in another, resource manager one here and another resource manager or standby resource manager on the other machine. Similarly to the availability like that. Then the advantage is even one of the, there is a chance like one entire rack failure happen. So that could be due to the networking issue at the rack level, or it could be due to power outage, or it could be something entire this rack backbone something happened. So that is one kind of failure in that happened in data center. So in that case, still we have the name node on the other rack, the resource manager on the other rack, then this one on the other rack. So we will have the availability. Okay, so, but this is not a DR solution, but still if anything happened to one of the rack, so we will have that available on the other one. And if I go, okay, so once you set the rack, definitely it require a restart of the services because there a lot of dependent services are there. Then we will just go ahead and redeploy and restart the service. Okay, so the simple reason, like it has to handle the rack failure. For that reason only, we are setting the rack awareness. So rack awareness is nothing but just we are telling the system, okay, so these servers are logically grouped into one of the rack, and these servers are grouped into another server, and this is on different server rack. And only for data center, setting up the rack makes sense because we are mainly concerned about, the system is concerned about the HDFS block placement and yarn job. And the mainly this HDFS is using this rack concept. And maybe some of the time, sometime the people maybe think how to give this rack name. Should it be the same as something that the people use in the data center backend, or is there how we can use? Nothing like that. So we are just telling the system, okay, this many servers are in a single rack, and this much servers are on the different rack. You can use any name, like only thing is we use the slash and something like rack 01, rack 02, or any naming convention. If you have it in your environment, you can use that. So the rack 01 means actually the rack is just a metallic box, okay, and all the servers are mounted. And rack 01 means we are just telling, okay, so one of the rack, all these servers are together in this rack, and rack 02 means all other servers are on different rack, just to differentiate the servers, okay. And that is the reason we are just using the rack. Normally we use backslash and then rack or some name 0102 like that, or you can use any name, but it should start with a slash, okay. Just a logical name, and we are just saying, okay, this many servers are on this unit, and these other servers are on the other unit. Okay, so this is done. Now if I go back to here, var run Cloudera SCM agent process, then if I just say here ls-lrt, like we will get a reverse sorted order, and I can just use grep-i name, or then name node. I don't know why. Yeah, I think this is the latest. Go to this directory. You can just see the topology.map. See, so master and master 1 and master 2, we will have it on one machine, but worker 1, 2, 3, I think all host, if we just take, I don't know why master 2 is missing here. Okay, all the worker host we have it on this rack. Say for example, if I just use Python, just execute that Python script, topology.py, and if I just use the worker 2, it should list what is the rack name. And if I just use master 1, it's saying the default. But the thing is, like the master component, it's not needed, but only for the workers we need the rack. Okay, then okay, so next we will see Cloudera navigator. Okay, so for adding that, what you have to do is go to the configuration, metadata. Cloudera metadata server is needed. Okay, so what you have to do is just go to the Cloudera manager. So go to the management service and go to the instance. So we have activity monitor, alert publisher, then host monitor, report manager, and all. So we have one more service component called metadata service navigator. So Cloudera navigator metadata service, and we have, oh, I think audit one. I don't know whether we have in 1 second. Okay, it's not installed. Okay, So what we are doing is next is this is the lineage and auditing. So mainly we can do the metadata management. Say for example, your management, they want to search for a keyword like certain table or certain file name and where this is located and who all are used. Okay, certain file who all used when some auditing they want to do. So mainly for auditors, so we have a tool. So we will just see how to install and configure and how to use the basic thing. So mostly this will not be an admin job. So admin has to just to do the installation and configuration of this part. Then the later there will be data auditing team will take care of this tool. What you have to do is just add role instance. So we can have navigator, metadata, and audit server. I'm just adding it into the master one, and this one also I can do it on master one itself, or both I can do it on master 2. I think master 2 is lightly dotted. Okay, so navigator, metadata server, and navigator audit server. Continue. And these two service require database, so any relational database. So what I'm going to do here is just go to the master 2 and get what is the IP address. Then I can okay, so go to the SSH auth, then training Cloudera. So here I'm just connecting MySQL -u root -p. I think I don't have MySQL DB installed here. Okay, so let me just go ahead and install MySQL. Okay, I have some link which I already used for installing MySQL on CentOS 7. So what you can do is just download this link using wget, but before that make sure like wget is available in our system. If it's not available, go ahead and install wget, then download this. Okay, just wget is just downloading from internet, as you can use yum-y install, then whatever the downloaded packages. So that will do the installation. Next we have to do is see MySQL server you have to install and start. I'm just installing MySQL server. Okay, then systemctl start MySQL d. Okay, so MySQL d is the daemon that I'm just starting. Then I can just check status. See, that is running. So the thing is like you can just use MySQL-u root, it will enter. You can just do that, but that is not best way. What you can do is just MySQL secure installation and set the password. The current password is nothing, just enter, set the password. Yes, once prompted, type some password and re-enter the password. Just remove disallow. Yes, yes, everything yes. So and now MySQL-u root, then -p. Once prompted, type the password. This is nothing but the password we just now set. Then create a database. So what database you need? So we need the database for Navigator audit server and Navigator metadata server. Then I'm just using an audit. Okay. Then create user and audit at percentage identified by. So what is the password we are going to use? Use that. Then grant all privileges on dot star to privileges legs, or this is the most confusing part. Yeah, I have created a database called naudit and a username also naudit. So navigator audit, database name is this one, username is this one, password is this one, and nmeta, another thing is create database. Then I'm just create user. Okay, so I just use this another database user and password. I'm going a bit fast here because you might already knowing this thing very well. So creating the database and creating the username and password. So I just use the MySQL and whatever the database you can use. You are just creating the database, creating the user and granting full privileges on that schema or database to this user. And we can do a test connection. Yeah, the test is success. So if any issues, maybe the driver issue or any other issue detected, you can have to address that. So once that is done, we can continue. So these two services are showing down. So we will have to start. So this is the most memory consuming process. So sometime if this is not starting, we will have to check and increase the memory if that memory exception is happening.
Sijesh, what are the day-to-day regular monitoring and cleanup activity for this particular navigator related servers and DB side? We need to clean up the DB schemas.
No, we need not to do anything here for the navigator. Okay, because it's very rare. Like, I mean, so we will just install and set up. That's it, and we'll make sure like the service is always up and running.
Okay, but day-to-day, the audit information will be filled out with the database schema and
No,
other servers. We need to do we need to do some cleanup activity, right? For any auditing or anything logs related, this
no,
particular
the
navigator.
logs will be there in the backend, and so mostly in the production they will be using like enterprise level database. So that database backup and recovery will be handled by separate team. So instead of MySQL, mostly the people may be using Oracle or any other enterprise level software.
Oh, that's not the job of
No,
Hadoop.
it's very rare. Like we will not, I mean, uh, delete or remove anything from this database. So our job as a Hadoop administrator is to maintain like and make sure the service is up and running. And also, even though this is making use of this DB, I didn't see like this DB growth issues much in this. Okay, so the issue is this is not
Character
DB to
conversion.
and
Character need
yeah,
to be converted. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, and how to convert uh, alter database. So I will just go to the database and audit. Okay, so this is one of the thing you need to just check. And okay, so looks like this time this is started successfully. Okay, so navigator, metadata, and navigator audit. So just go to this audit and use this link. Okay, so what you have to do is, so unlike this cluster component, this is the Cloudera management component, and go to the instances and navigator, metadata, and use the Cloudera navigator. So like we said, like initial credentials are admin, use that, and we have option to integrate this with the Active Directory and all, and that is also feasible in that case. So people can make use of that. So the first is the search, like search part. You can just search some keyword, and it will list all the matching thing. Okay, I think this is showing the source as yarn alone. The remaining components HDFS and all is not displaying. Maybe it has to take it will take some time to get this data, or the stale configuration restart is detected. Okay, so we'll restart those services, because the Cloudera navigator related configuration has to update, and then only it will send. So basically, what are the information, like say for example, if you just want to know this name and where this name is located, or say for example, I have some table or some complicated table name, so you need to find out where this table is located. So in that case, you can use this navigator metadata. uh, okay, so now you can see once this is started, this is showing hive, yarn, etc. And say for example, if I just use uh, I don't know whether we have created fruits, right? Yes, under hive we have a fruit table created. Just search for that. Okay, see, this is the table, and it will give the complete details about the table, and the lineage is something like it will show how this table is created. Like in our case, we just directly created from the command, and we loaded. Maybe the table may be created as part of the scope operation, then did some transformation and changed lot of transformation, that changed, that will show as a graph, or like chart. From here, then there will be an arrow, then this one and this one. So the lineage is something like it will show how the data is moving into different analytical engine, and how it's created, or how that is about the lineage. So the detail, so that will give the complete details. Any auditing person, this is very good information, so they can just see, okay, how this is looking like. Certain keywords they can search, and clear all filter, And we can add the filter like so how the name, okay, cluster, or so different options we can do here. Okay, and let me clear all the filter. uh, so source is this one, add filter means I don't know about these queries and all, but if you want to search only so it will give the list in the yarn as well as the HDFS also. Maybe I think I need to wait some time, or maybe I need to restart the service again to get that data. So basically, you or anyone should be able to search, and that will show based on the keyword. There are different options like it can be Hive, HDFS, or different components, yarn, etc. And the next is we have audit tab. So this will give you the complete information. Like say for example, I'll show you one of the breach or security or any violation that is happening, or I'm not able to log in or something. Okay, so let me just take this hue master one IP address I have running on the master one, right? Yeah, let me just use 8888, right? And once prompted, I will type KKK. So actually this user doesn't exist, and if I try to sign in, that is failing. So this is the one of the operation. Similarly, there will be n number of operation happen, and that is reported. You may be thinking, okay, so okay, nobody knowing this thing. Okay, I just try to use with this ID, but immediately we'll have the information like here in the audit, it will be there. So what you can do is you can just search that report. I think audit events. Just to go to the filter, and there is an option allowed equal to false. I think. See, this is the detail. KKK. So that is the one which we used here, right? And this is the time, and what has happened, right? So the hue login, and this is failed to login. Say for example, if I just try SSS and login. So this is a hue. Hue is just an example. We can have right. See, and similarly any login, even if it's a Cloudera manager, and if I'm just let me open this. Okay, this is a fail operation, right? And what I can do is just okay, go to the search, add filter, and allowed equal to false. I think it's not reporting that Cloudera incident. Maybe anything else. Okay, I'll just try to see here. Go to the master one, test user. HDFS, sorry, sudo so HDFS DFS hyphen mkdir slash abcd something. This is action failed, and actually this should also report. right? And this is showing like if I just hit here, see, so this is the operation, and mkdir, what is the kind of operation it did and what is the type of name. So that you will get from the audit. So the search, you can do search, and analytic page again I also have to explore. So the policy also I haven't tried much. And the admin page, you will have like logout option. You can have create the roles for various users and all. So mainly for us, this search and audit is very helpful. So the lot more options are available. Mainly that the data, the people who handle this data management or just to do the auditing and lineage will be using this tool more frequently. But we also still know how this tool works and what we need to do for the installation and configuration and test. You can explore these features later, and if you are interested, but still it's a very good tool. Okay, so this is for lineage and metadata management. If somebody asks what is the tool you can use for lineage and data management, you should be able to tell, okay, this is the tool navigator, and for that what we need is we just need to go to the Cloudera management service and add that services, and then you need a backend database, and maybe they will ask some common issues you faced during this tool installation. So you can tell those things like this DB encoding issue, you change this. So while asking interview, mostly people use the scenario based. And if you're going for an interview, there may be, if they ask for what is the tool you use, you can tell all these stories. Okay, this is the thing we tried, and we have this issue, and this is what we use, and you can tell we just explored these features. That's it. Okay. So you can install this and try doing this. So with that, we can conclude for today, and we will continue tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Tomorrow we will do that BDR and a little bit of the remaining components like how this.
Satish, and can you little bit? I mean, can you show me Woozy configuration along with these queues and schedulers?
Yeah, we'll see some sample job. I will show you.
And
Okay. And
is there any security related to schedulers? Scheduler security is separate or regular security is only?
for scheduler, only thing is you have that ACL in place. Other than that, there is nothing.
Oh, ACL,
Security.
there's a HDFS part, right?
No, ACL stands for typically access control list. So the HDFS ACL is there, and for scheduler, we are just defining, okay, who can access and who cannot access.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. Thanks, man.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Pasti kerja betul, saya jawab ini.